All right, so welcome back into another podcast. Today, we're going to be diving in deep to what's going on in DC. I'll also break down a very custom piece of research where we broke over the weekend what's happening in Italy and how this could affect XRP. Ripple could be the beneficiary of this. You guys don't want to miss it. I'll have a special guest as well with Ron Hammond. Stick around. I want to take a moment and thank our sponsor. And this is a channel sponsor that you guys are going to love. Uphold. It is the place for individuals and enterprise to get in and start earning more with your crypto. You've got staking rewards right now on more than 20 cryptocurrencies. They also have the new debit card, which you guys can go over and get the debit card right now with, guess what? XRP rewards. Earn up to 6% XRP on everything you buy. This is with the Uphold debit card. This is no credit check. You, of course, get all the benefits of being able to get up to 10% back on your XRP when you add in and stack direct deposit. This is a limited time offer. You guys don't want to miss it. Get over to Uphold right now using our link, support the channel, and you guys can also get in on all of what's happening with Uphold, the card with the most XRP rewards. Back to the episode. All right, let's get going. I do want to kind of jump into a couple of things that have been going on with, and I think everybody's been in a position right now. What happened over the weekend when we saw Bitcoin, of course, dropping dramatically almost into the 85, 86 range? This, of course, is really built around a couple of things. One, of course, is the Bank of Japan. One of the announcements that they, of course, made over the weekend, the yen is rising now, obviously, as bonds starting to adjust down. One thing to consider when you look at where the Bank of Japan is, remember that we're dealing with a very interesting scenario that could be playing out. One of the things that could be playing out is, of course, this right here, and that is that we could see a continuation of bonds falling. And where does this mean the market could go? A couple of things start to ramp up here. One, of course, remember, Japan is one of the largest holders of U.S. Treasuries. This, of course, could have a major impact as the U.S. starts to move toward a more dominant system around stablecoins that, of course, are lined up with what we're seeing both on Tether, Circle, et cetera, in terms of building out a stablecoin ecosystem going forward. So there's a lot happening there. This is one of the key things that, of course, we believe has been the catalyst for over the weekend. The other thing that you have to kind of consider is the fears that this is going to continue to push. Japan is a very interesting cog in the wheel of the global macro system. And it's very important. Obviously, this could force investors to do things like selling their crypto holdings, pay back debts. This also creates some interesting areas that could get into a push on Fed rate cut jitters for December. Remember, that's coming up just here in a few days. Next week, we'll see Chair Powell. And really the ultimate decision as to whether or not we get a quarter basis cut. And I think this is going to be a factor moving forward. All right, as I said, one of the components that you have to consider is really what's been going on with the Genius Act. And of course, this now starts to push into a very interesting role that many of the stablecoin issuers could play, especially with dominance of the U.S. Reserve going global now, where we could see stablecoins starting to get exported. This, of course, could put a lot of these issuers in a position where they are now buyers of U.S. debt. And you guys, I'm sure, saw the situation with Tether that started to play into this. Because remember, Tether, as we get interest rate cuts, this puts a lot of pressure on stablecoin issuers because they don't have the kind of revenue opportunity. So what we have seen with Tether is moving toward gold, more acquisition, and also more Bitcoin. So be on the lookout with all of that. This is all factoring in to what eventually will be situations that are going to be brewing in DC. So I wanted to bring Ron Hammond in to kind of break that down and get into it. Ron, how are you?
I'm doing good, Paul. Got a little rest from the weekend, so excited to get back into it. So
how's the Thanksgiving? How was the Thanksgiving for you?
Oh, it was good. Just saw the girlfriend's parents for the first time. So
oh man,
it was a little more than usual.
Oh, that's a good thing. You actually got to meet the parents.
Exactly. So good Thanksgiving.
Congratulations. That's a milestone.
Something like that.
I love it. Hey, Ron, let's get into a little bit about what's going on in DC, because this is something that, of course, our viewers and listeners are very interested in, and that is the Clarity Act. We're getting mixed signals coming from DC right now. Give me what you think could happen in terms of a best case scenario for December.
Sure thing. So, just to remind folks where we're at currently, we have the Senate Agriculture Committee as well as Senate Banking Committee having their first kind of round of drafts. Again, those are the two bodies that are right now drafting the final version of the Clarity Act or the market structure bill that's going through the Senate. So we've seen the first couple of iterations, and now it seems like we're going to be having a vote within the respective committees of agriculture and banking.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, actually, we've been hearing from Chairman Scott Senate banking that we're looking at the second week of December potentially. That can always get pushed back, as well as Senate Agriculture saying they want to get theirs done by December. So to your
Okay.
point, best case scenario, they're out of those committees by December, and likely January, February, they combine the two and they vote in the Senate, and it gets 60 votes, and it goes to the House, they clear it, and it goes to the president's desk by end of February. I would say that is the best case scenario, and it's
Best
Congress,
case.
so we're going to probably push that timeline back a little bit.
All right. So this rolls into 2026 for clarity. There are some key things that, of course, are going on in early 2026 with a lot of things starting to hit Congress's desks. When you look at clarity, could this get lost in the minutia in early cycle of 2026, especially with Congress and all the things they're looking at right now?
Definitely, and that's the concern. The shutdown really impacted a lot of this timing. We lost a lot of time in the Senate, and actually, the shutdown we just averted just for a couple more months.
Yeah.
Actually, at the end of January, that's we have to do this all over again. So
Well,
there's
that's
a
the concern I have is that January's that right there, and they're just going to be coming back. Do you think we would get any kind of run at the Clarity Act before the shutdown in January potential?
That's the hope, but there's also the big defense bill that they're voting on before December. So
Yeah.
there are two things I'm looking at. It's the big defense bill that they're working on right now, and they're trying to pass up before the end of December. And then it's a big budget fight, which again, we haven't had really good success this Congress on the budget issues. And those have delayed things several months. And so that is a very real scenario. And it seems like Congress is trying to avert that right now and
Right.
playing a little farther ahead. But it's politics. Unfortunately, with everything going on, things are pretty tense, and we can easily see a shutdown happening again in January.
All right. So you have Congress now looking at a dramatic change of events because remember, Trump was really pushing for clarity for this year. That has not come. Do you think that we're going to start to see some pressure from the major lobby groups that is basically saying, "Hey, listen, this has been a big." I understand. Yes, we got Genius Act through, but really, clarity is the one that I think a lot of people are looking at. Who would be the driver from a lobby side for getting this done early next year?
Well, the main issue right now is there's the bank lobby versus the crypto lobby, which both have an issue that it seems like there's not really a middle ground here. It's around the interest bearing stablecoin issue.
Yeah.
Right now, the bank lobby is really heavily pushing that folks like Coinbase and Kraken and Robinhood really can't offer stablecoin rewards or yield to their customers. They're trying to block that entirely, and they weren't able to get that done in the Genius Act, so they're going to try to do it here in the Clarity Act. So wherever the senators kind of come down on that issue, we're going to have one industry probably really happy, and one
Mhm.
industry is going to throw a lot of money to try to kill that
Yeah.
effort. And it seemed like the banks are losing ground here. We had Senator Rounds, who is a kind of more bank-friendly Republican, recently say, "I don't think the Clarity Act is an issue we should touch stablecoins on right now." That's a huge blow to the bank lobby. Again, they have
Huge.
other allies, but we're kind of seeing the banks starting to lose on that issue. But in terms of driving situation and more of the outside influences, I'd say you got to look at the two major industries of the bank lobby and the crypto lobby. Someone's likely going to be unhappy given where the final bill kind of ends up, which we will hopefully see in about 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll see what the lobbying force does afterwards, because again, both crypto and the banks have a lot of money in the coffers, and they are not afraid to use it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've watched the Trump family continue to push into crypto very vehemently because of the debanking that they, of course, experienced. And I saw Lara Trump here recently on an interview where she was kind of being asked, "Well, what about all of these, questionable scenarios that are playing out?" The interesting thing that I think a lot of people forget about crypto versus traditional finance and deals that are often done in the back rooms of DC is that with crypto, you can see everything happening. It's all on chain. So the Trump family is actually just saying, "Hey, here it is. It's wide open." Do you think Congress is going to try to hold that over this administration, especially on Clarity Act?
Definitely. And we've kind of seen a lot of the first steps made by a lot of the Democrats in the Senate on this issue. Again, it gets really complicated, unfortunately, because they're trying to go obviously against after the president and his family and affiliates. And of course, obviously, when it comes to things like meme coins, like how far do you go down
Right.
saying maybe the president's son can't do it, but can the cabinet secretary do it or undersecretary? There's a lot of these questions that, of course, there's going to be some at least agreement between both sides here. But obviously, the Trump family is more the target for one party versus the other party here.
Right.
But this is a serious piece of legislation, and I think the momentum's there. So there's like huge desire to at least find a pathway forward. But of course, when politics gets involved here, and a lot of the stuff with the Trump conflict of interest, at least this go around for this administration, has been focused on the crypto issue. And so
Yeah.
we've seen politics really get in the way of a light, either friendly crypto Democrats who've been saying, hey, maybe we should pause here, maybe we should take a little extra time on how we approach the conflict of interest piece because it is a concern of them, but they want to get to a yes. It's just these political factors that
Yeah.
are something to consider.
Well, the conflict of interest is rising up a lot more. We were just on an interview last week where we were dealing with the issue with Howard Lutnick. Obviously, Cantor Fitzgerald, one of the biggest firms out there managing a lot of the U.S. Treasury for Tether, and also has a large stake in it. So you've got now a stablecoin issuer, you've got the Secretary of Commerce, and you've got the Trump administration all active in this right now. Does all of this put the Clarity Act at risk for 2026? Could we lose the opportunity to get the Clarity Act done?
Definitely. And again, a lot of it is more just narrative. Whichever narrative wins, usually in the media or the public forums or on Twitter, that's usually an indicative sign of kind of how the rest of history remembers it. And again, the shutdown's a good example when both parties are jockeying on the narrative so heavily rather than the substance. And that's why it took so long. It's
Yeah,
really frustrating. But we're seeing that kind of play right now. I've had a lot of calls with reporters, some very biased, some less biased or more industry friendly, who are looking for that conflict of interest angle or that big story. Some of them have been focused on Lutnick, some of them focused on commerce,
yeah,
Trump Jr., and so on and so forth. But there's been a lot of interest, at least in the media, on this story. And even though folks can discredit if you don't like it one way or the other,
sure.
that does have a material effect, and that does compound. And I think we're going to be seeing that machine ramp up, especially when the crypto votes start coming from the Congress. This happens all the time, but expect a lot of stories from the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Business Insider, The Economist, your usual suspects. I would not expect the stories to be positive, and
Yeah.
I would see it as a way to potentially influence the vote coming through the Senate.
Is there any scuttle in DC where obviously over the weekend we saw Tether drop the EUROT, which is the official shutdown. I mean, it wasn't a big product, but the point is that it was a stable coin that was in Europe that is no longer available. Do you feel like there's any concern right now on the stable coin side of things from an administration, especially from Congress, who are trying to understand how stable coins are going to be used with these kind of moves that are happening in Europe right now?
I mean, I think there's actually a lot of folks who have kind of come around to the Genius Act. Once the politics went away and it was actually signed into law, it's been incredible to see both the market reaction to it, but also international regulators. I've had several conversations recently with a lot of folks more in the UK side of things in Parliament and Treasury, and there's a little Genius Act envy, which
Yeah,
is really kind of crazy to see, but at the same time also shows how important they are for the ecosystem and digital economy going forward. So I'd say the stablecoin realm has really bolstered. I wouldn't be too afraid. And again, the interest bearing stablecoin issue is going to be a question for Congress that we'll see what happens there. The Genius Act still has to go through some rulemakings on interest and yield. So we'll see that coming more with the OCC and FDIC in the next couple of months. But overall, I'd say there's been a really strong consensus here that the Genius Act was A, very positive, and B, stablecoins are here for good. And they have a lot of benefits outside just even the crypto macro rails, as you were talking about earlier. Buying a lot of U.S. Treasury debt, which has been great instead of having China or another adversary or buy it. So I think it's a lot of the things that more folks in Congress are looking towards. But at least there's some more nitty gritty details that are still being worked out post Genius Act. So keep an eye on it.
yeah. Well, you have some very key companies that could really play into this whole model that's going forward right now. Obviously, PayPal with PYUSD, one of the rising stars. Then you have Ripple, one of the cornerstones of crypto in general, who has launched, of course, RLUSD, now hitting 1 billion. We're probably going to see more of that. Obviously, both these US based companies they could start taking over a lot of the top rankings around stablecoin, but more importantly, around stablecoin usage. So I think to your issue right there is we're seeing Congress starting to wake up. And this has been very new. I mean, do you think DC is surprised that stablecoins have moved so fast in the market?
I'd say DC surprised especially folks who are more monitoring the situation, even folks that I work with in the policy realm
Yeah.
on the lobbying side or even inside Congress. They were definitely surprised. And again, I was also more surprised myself personally, seeing it more on the foreign regulator side and seeing them being envious of the Genius Act,
Yeah.
which is again crazy to see the tables turn for once for United States regulation in crypto. But overall, there's a lot happening in politics here, and a lot more of the negative headlines tend to carry the water versus the positive
Right.
headlines
Yeah.
here. And that's, I think we're seeing a lot of that kind of more come to light with a lot of focus on the conflict of interest.
We're going to, of course, cover another topic after Ron's gone, but we're going to talk a little bit about what Giorgia Meloni has done in Italy, starting to move a lot of her gold reserves, getting into that. So make sure and stick around for that. Ron, before we go and let you go, I wanted to kind of get your take on the CFTC. Caroline Pham, of course, starting to potentially rearrange how she's going to be managing that. But of course, now we have a new update with the CFTC. Can you share more?
Sure thing. So we saw Mike Selig. He was from the SEC Crypto Task Force. He just got approved from the Senate Agriculture Committee to go on to the next vote, which will be the full Senate, hopefully either this week or next week. So technically, we will have finally a CFTC chair, not the acting
Right.
chair that Caroline Pham has filled that role in. Has done a really great job, and she's the one commissioner left standing when usually there's five. So once Selig gets through, hopefully it looks like we'll have to actually backfill with another Republican and Democrat nominations as well. So there's still a lot of work to go over at the CFTC, but that's a huge, huge update that's really important because
Right.
the CFTC has been slowing down. We just saw the news from Binomial launching their spot exchange there, which has been really exciting. And
Yeah.
Caroline Pham also having a bunch of executives she wants to bring over from the industry to DC to inform her strategy on crypto and prediction markets. So it seems like the CFTC is, not slowing down anytime soon, even though there's smaller staff. And that's bodes pretty well actually for market structure odds, honestly, because that was a pushback we got from a lot of
Right.
Democrats and even Republicans saying, "Hey, look, we think the CFTC has got to be staffed or at least have a couple more commissioners and a chair." And so we're kind of checking some of those boxes off, but still a little decent way to go.
What do you make of the innovation group led by CEOs in the blockchain and the crypto space? Do you think that's kind of, you know, stocking the what how you call it where you're kind of packing the roster there of people that really understand this versus trying to get just everyday business companies and executives into where they can maybe understand how crypto is going to change the future? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, we've seen a big push from this administration, and obviously it's coming from up top to do as many meetings with the industry as possible, whether it be more the White House having those roundtables that were very public and had a lot of CEOs there,
Yeah.
the SEC doing a bunch of roundtables with more legal and policy realm folks. So the CFTC has looked to piggyback off that, it seems, and again, focusing more on the executive and high level here.
Right.
So I think it's all positive here to at least have those folks in the room, because you got to remember, at least when we were trying to meet with the Biden administration or the Biden White House, a good example, 2 years ago, or even last year during the campaign side, they wouldn't even meet with us in the White House. They would have to meet with us off campus at like a hotel lobby or something to that
Mm.
extent. So to have any more of like these more direct interactions,
Big difference, right?
it's night and day difference.
Yeah. What do you think are going to be the biggest things that we can look forward to that would be pro crypto in 2026?
I would definitely look at the tax angle. I think that's going to be the next big issue that's going to be discussed a lot, especially as Congress is considering another tax bill in 2026. The odds are a little low for that bill, but crypto seems to be poised to get a lot of potential tax clarifying issues like on staking and de minimis. The Solana Policy Institute did a great letter that Weremute signed on to that pretty much outlined a lot of the things that the agencies as well as the executive branch can do without congressional approval. So it seemed like at least we have a push forward to say, hey, there's a lot of other things you guys can tackle besides just market structure if hypothetically we run out of time here. But overall, the administration has been really heavily engaging folks in the industry on tax issues. And I think that's going to be coming up probably around January, February. Expect a lot more hearings and expect the House to start moving on some legislation. So buckle in. It's not done after market structure if we get best case scenario, because tax is going to be up next. And that's going to be even shorter deadline and a lot more at stake, obviously, considering the election.
Yeah, well, and it also, I just wonder how this administration is going to utilize what's been going on in crypto into the midterms. Are you, kind of forecasting any strategies out there?
There's a lot of money in play, like I mentioned here, and especially the bank lobby and the crypto lobby. There are a couple senators on the Democrat side, for example, that fair shake backed. Of course, it does not mean they're guaranteed to vote for market structure. We've in fact seen almost the opposite. So the question kind of remains: is these crypto-friendly Democrats, where they end up on the market structure piece of legislation? And finally, kind of what happens with the Trump administration pushing the crypto industry, saying, "Hey, we give you guys all these factors here. We think you should be more on our camp or our camp solely versus not supporting Democrats, even if there are friendly Democrats and plenty of them." So I think we're going to see a lot of political tension. We'll see camps go one way versus the other. We see kind of more the Winklevoss twins align themselves more on the Republican side, whereas Fair Shake's been kind of more Republicans and Democrats. So we'll see if that kind of trend continues and kind of where crypto finds itself in the 2026 election, because uh, we're not a monolith, as we all very well know, and there's a lot of camps in crypto, and unfortunately, they are kind of splintered. But at the same time, that's probably good for the industry, because it's good to see that, hey, there's a lot of important factors for this industry
Well,
to
it's
consider.
like any financial industry. You do need a lot of sectors involved to make it a very robust, model. And I think that's what's going forward for sure. Hey, Ron, thanks a lot for jumping in. Give us kind of a DC update. I love to get these quick hits from you because I think a lot is happening. We'll keep it on cue for early 2026. Try to get you back to talk about where clarity is, hopefully in January. So thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it. All right, so guys, that was a good interview, I think, with Ron. I think the point that we are getting at right now is DC is still in a very precarious situation going forward into 2026. I just wonder how the administration is going to, dare I say, use the crypto lobbies for their own benefit. And that, of course, is going into what's going on the situation with the midterms. One thing that I promised you guys, because I wanted to break down a couple of news stories. One was, of course, a piece of research that was done over the weekend. Actually, over the last couple of weeks, we have been seeing this coming. And I wanted to kind of break down my analysis of this. I'll bring up my tweet this morning because this kind of summarizes it fairly well. Because Italy made its move over the weekend. At least right now, what I'm recommending is that Garling House should be on a meeting rampage through the EU because there's a big opportunity. Because Giorgia Meloni now is moving to assert state control over Italy's 300 billion in gold reserves. Now, if this is going to take it away from the ECB, so European Central Bank, the influence of that, especially around gold. Now, why does it matter if you only if you're planning to leave the house, and I'm talking about the financial house, is you're going to start getting your collateral. You're going to start putting your collateral together, and gold is one of the key factors here. Now, how does this play into how Ripple could be involved? If you look at the speculation, if Italy exits, this is where the euro's dominoes start to fall. EU money centers start to panic. You would start to see single ledger fractures. This could go to as many as 20 different national ledgers. All of this could be playing into where this plays out right now. And then you get banks that suddenly aren't settling euro to euro. That's the whole goal of what the EU has been around. There's been a lot of pushback here recently where the EU is going. Netherlands, I think, Slovakia could be the next potentials to say, hey, we might be interested in this. Now, Netherlands has been on record a couple of times talking about that gold is its security blanket, basically, is that they're looking more and more into gold as their reserve asset. This could get big quickly in the EU. Now, remember, China has been buying a lot of gold. We've got European central banks buying a lot of gold. There's been a repositioning. It's also why you're seeing gold continuing to go up while we're seeing some of the key crypto platforms going down. So this is where you get into kind of this situation on Swift, and this is the fix. So if you had a fragmented Europe, which is going to be the situation, I think, within just a couple of years, it's going to need a neutral bridge. This is really going to put Swift into a very precarious situation. Again, this starts to move right into Ripple's wheelhouse because if you need lira to a euro or a lira to a mark or to a franc, what is going to become that intermediary? We all know what that can be, and that is Ripple. And I think Ripple needs to be on the offensive if they're not already. My anticipation is that Garlinghouse is probably already talking to a lot of these heads of states in Europe because of this very issue. Just this morning, also Ripple came in with this news, and that is that Ripple is receiving approval from Singapore's MAS to expand payment activities. And when you look at what this means for a scenario around its major payment institution, this is going to really change the way Ripple is looked at in Singapore. Still one of the biggest financial centers in Asia. This is getting global. And remember, we are talking about what's happening in Japan earlier in the episode, why we could see a reverse carry trade to put a lot of pressure onto treasuries. And if that starts to occur, get ready, because there's going to be a reserve asset that starts to rise out of this. And a lot of people, as you guys know, have been pushing for XRP being that reserve asset. So we're going to cover this and more this week. There's a big lineup here on the show. Make sure and stick around for that. By the way, if you guys are not subscribed now, we just went over 300K on this channel. We just passed 2 million on PBN. And this, of course, has become the largest crypto and financial media organization in the world because of you guys. So thanks so much for subscribing. If you're not sharing this out to people who are just now learning about how to understand crypto, do that right now. We'll catch you next time right here on the XRP podcast. Take care.